In this second part, we will talk about the hemodialysis membranes for the physiochemical structure and how we can improve the biocompatibility structure, which means blood membrane contact. So basically, the hemodialysis membrane means that different fluxes which determine the solid or toxin to be removed according to the molecular weight, ultrafiltration coefficient that determine how much water is removed per each transmembrane pressure applied, and most importantly as well, the blood membrane contact. Most of hemodialysis membrane now is called asymmetrical membrane, with synthetic membranes having the internal porosity smaller than the outer porosity. Contacting the blood with the inner surface of the membrane can induce severe reaction, can induce thrombogenicity, can induce immune reactions, and this could be transmitted to the patient's blood. While the outer surface protects the patient from current water impurities, and improving the water impurities should be in all dialysis modalities. However, some synthetic membranes can have more protection by absorption of the endotoxins inside the thickness of the membrane. Polysulfone membrane remains a golden standard for the maximum protection by absorbing the endotoxins coming from the dialysate impurities. While a long distance which carries the blood from the patient to the fibers inside the lumen, where the solid flux move from inside to outside the fibers. The meaning of flux, meaning that the porosity of the membrane can remove solutes with a definite molecular weight, while low flux only remove very small solids. Medium flux and high flux and superflux is 3 different additional membranes depending on how much the molecular weight could be removed. In the conventional high flux membranes, the beta-2 microglobulin molecule could be removed easily, while in superflux, or what's called expanded hemodialysis membrane, can remove bigger molecule, but unfortunately albumin will be lost as well. So hemodialysis membranes consist of asymmetrical structure with a backbone of polysulfone, which is completely hydrophobic, and an internal skin layer, which is the sieving layer that determines which solids can pass. This diagram showing that this is the blood membrane interaction and contact, and this is the skin layer or the sieving layer of the membrane, while the resting part of the fiber thickness is the backbone. So the internal skin layer, sieving layer, is only 1 micron, while the resting is the backbone of the polysulfone membrane. The inner skin layer should be smooth as an endothelium because any roughness facing the bloodstream during hemodialysis will induce platelet and coagulation activation. So usually, in most of the current dialyzers in practice have hydrogel-like structures, PVP paste, which is this is the hydrophilic nature of the membrane and incorporated inside the polysulfone membrane and some other membranes. And these PVP paste polysulfone hydrogel formations makes a smooth inside the membrane. Hemodialysis can induce thrombogenicity and immune reaction, so we have to avoid. For the functionality, we can classify the dialyzer into 5 classes depending on beta-2 microglobulin clearance, while the class 1 or low flux and the high flux or super flux, and this is the range of how much beta-2 could be removed. Working with high flux and super flux can improve the dialysis quality because you can remove middle molecules. Not only the small one, but the middle molecules could be also removed freely, while the protein-bound toxins is hardly removed because it's carried by albumin, and the membrane is not leaky to the albumin. So flux and permeability with a cut-off, meaning that what is the maximum molecular weight could be removed. And this is the molecular weight of majority of toxins. If you go here, for the high flux membrane can remove up to 20,000 to 30,000 according to the membrane permeability. Going beyond the 30,000 need more porous membranes like mid-cut-off membranes. While in plasma separation therapy, plasma filters can remove up to 2 million molecular weight. So this is a target to be removed in the future with higher molecular weight uremic toxins, that is triple the size of the beta-2 microglobulin. Blood membrane contact. The blood membrane road, meaning that whenever the blood flow through the fibers is in direct contact with the inner surface of the membrane. How much is this distance? It is around 3,000 kilometers in 4 hours. Let me explain that. This is a blood pathway. Dialyzer, if we put the fiber together in the same line, it is 3 kilometer distance, and the blood flow at a QP 300 milli per minute pass the dialyzer in only 15 seconds. So blood contact is 3 kilometers, contacting every 15 seconds. The total blood membrane contact in one single session is 3,000 kilometers. So blood contact can activate system immunity, thrombogenicity, and can transfer pyrogen from the dialysate. Considering the thrombogenicity, with hemodialysis membrane, contact of the blood can induce platelet activation, coagulation cascades, and formation of fibrin mesh. So if any kind of roughness of the dialysis membrane, the blood contact will induce thrombogenicity by activation of platelet, coagulation, and formation of fibrin mesh. It is not defined only for the blood membrane, because during dialysis session, the blood returned to the patient returned activated by the complement pathway, induce severe adhesion molecule, activations, coagulations, and inflammatory response. So it is not defined only to the membrane interaction, but while transferring the blood from the filters to the bloodstream back again can induce severe immunological and coagulations activation. So in thrombogenicity, we have complement activation, protein absorption, coagulation activation with contact with surface, protein changes, activation of cells, recruits platelets, and catalyze fibrin formations. And back again to the circulation, activation during hemodialysis session can induce contact activation, augmentation of thrombosis, transfer to the patient bloodstream, to the endothelium, causing atheroma and calcification. The uremic toxins molecules is hardly defined because you need 4 steps approach to define a specific uremic toxins. The uremic toxin should be chemically identified, laboratory, or proteomics analysis, and their levels in the uremic patients should be higher than in normal persons, and this uremic toxin should be clearly identified as a cause of the disease, and the disease should be improved by their removal. So, according to many hundreds of uremic solids retained in the blood, you cannot approve that it can cause the disease because you need the 4 steps approach to define a uremic toxin. In recent publications, a lot of uremic toxin solids have been identified, and all are in the range above 10,000 Dalton. Those molecules are removed only by either the high flux membrane or the hemodiafiltration. The molecular weight had been expanded to beyond 30,000 Dalton as well. And this is more than double size of beta-2 microglobulin. With the advances in hemodialysis membrane, still huge number of molecules beyond 30,000 could not be achieved by current techniques. You can find that FGF23, vasoactive intestinal peptides, inflammatory mediators like pentraxins, advanced glycation in the products, and light chains. We can classify it into 4 major groups. The group called cytokines can augment the amyloidosis and can induce severe endothelial damage. Please read the document here because each molecule from the cytokine can induce different approach for the endothelial damage. Also can induce severe protein energy wasting with sarcopenia and anorexia. Second group is the adipokine, and different types of adipokines have been identified, and it carries a pro-inflammatory cytokines effect. The third group is the immune-mediated proteins. Which can induce overactivity of complement system and inhibit leukocyte chemotaxis, apoptosis, and function. And finally, the growth factors, which can be contributed to the cardiomyopathy, cardiac hypertrophy. There is integration of the 4 groups: cytokine, adipokine, immune modulators, and growth factors in the development of atherosclerosis in patients on regular hemodialysis. So, involvement of large middle molecules with cardiovascular disease, the cytokine promote for atherosclerotic plaques, inflammatory response, prothrombotic effects, with severe impairment of nitric oxide production, the most potent vasodilators, advanced glycation end products, deposition within vessel wall, induction of oxidative stress and inflammation as well, adiponectin expression of adhesion molecules, while growth factors can induce cardiomyocyte hypertrophy. All of those can induce a chronic inflammatory reaction inside the blood. This can lead to cardiovascular events, kidney disease progressions, protein energy wasting, CKD, MPD as well, anemia, and insulin resistance. So the protein energy wasting in patients on dialysis are important to be judged clinically and laboratory. You can assess simply by very simple equation, which is the urea creatinine ratio. A clear association between elevated urea creatinine ratio and the increased risk for all-cause mortality, infection-related death, and the incidence of coronary heart disease. A higher urea creatinine ratio may indicate a lower creatinine level resulting from diminished muscle mass in sarcopenic patients. And it's related to all-cause mortality, coronary heart disease, and infection-related disease. While going from the ratio above 7, you have an extreme risk of death. Urea creatinine ratio showed a positive correlation with serum C-reactive protein level and the protein catabolic rate, while it's correlated negatively with nutritional indicators such as serum albumin and body mass index. Insulin-like growth factor 1 as assessment tool for protein energy wasting in different dialysis modality. We studied that and showed that in high flux dialysis, you have a better insulin growth factor 1. Also, the online HDF was studied for the DNA methylation and indoxyl sulfate removal. We found that with online HDF, you have a better DNA demethylations effect. So online HDF can improve the DNA methylation caused by uremic toxins, in particular the protein pound, while the indoxyl sulfate, one of the protein pound uremic toxin, could not be removed effectively by online HDF. So HDF can improve the DNA methylation, while still the protein bound uremic toxins could not be removed efficiently. Importantly, DNA methylation improvement is a dose dependent of the convection volume. So you need higher convection volume to improve the DNA methylation effect of uremia. An example of beta-2 microglobulin amyloidosis as a model of retention inflammation. In hemodialysis, we have a retention molecule of beta-2 microglobulin. But still removed effectively by high flux dialysis. However, the level of pre-dialysis level of low flux versus high flux is comparable, meaning that beta-2 microglobulin increase after the session of hemodialysis back again exactly like urea and creatinine, so could not explain solely by removal rate. In high flux and hemodiafiltration, you remove beta-2 microglobulin as well cytokines, so improving the deposition in the joints. A complementary removal of cytokine in high flux and the hemodiafiltration modalities improve the beta-2 microglobulin amyloidosis in patients on dialysis. So the pathogenesis of beta-2 microglobulin in hemodialysis patients with the deposition and the accumulation in the cervical discs as well in the vascular wall and synovium. This associated increase in advanced glycation in the products, cytokine in synovium, and increased expression of matrix metalloproteinases, causing destructive changes of the bone and cartilage. So elevated levels of cytokines play a major role in the pathogenesis of beta-2 microglobulin amyloidosis and joint destruction by inflammations, cytokine production, and augmentation of expression of HLA class 1 antigen can induce much more production of beta-2 microglobulin. So we have to avoid inflammation during hemodialysis, especially by using ultra-pure dialysate. So the dialysis-related amyloid histopathopathy with active osteoclastic bone resorption and synovial tissue destruction. There is inflammatory cells infiltrating the synovium, preparing the joint for beta-2 microglobulin deposition. On the hemodiafiltration latest results from the DOPS, the overall percent of hemodiafiltration in Europe is around 23%. However, only 50% of patients can reach a convection volume more than 20 liters. Hemodiafiltration subjected patients were more for the dialysis-related amyloidosis, polyneuropathy, patients with hemodynamic instability, patients on long vintage on hemodialysis, heart failure, diabetics, and the elderly. With the post-dilution, hemodiafiltration is in the majority of cases. You can use larger surface area dialyzers, and this improves the hemodiafiltration therapy. Surface area beyond 2.0 can improve the quality of hemodiafiltration, and increasing QF to maximum will increase the membrane fouling and the convection failure. So it's probably patient who achieved high convection volume needs bigger dialyzers. In many studies that support the hypothesis that high convection volume can positively impact on the protein hypercatabolic state of hemodialysis patients. So online hemodiafiltration compared with high flux may contribute to preservation lean body mass, stabilize protein and fat stores, increase protein intake, and reduce inflammation by removing complementary cytokines during sessions. Although the effectiveness of hemodiafiltration is still unclear in many of literatures. Using hemodialysis with a medium cut-off membranes, you have higher clearance and higher albumin loss. Compared to high flux hemodialysis and hemodiafiltration, medium cut-off can remove effectively as on hemodiafiltration, but on the expenses of few grams of albumin loss. For the molecules beyond beta-2 microglobulin, expanded hemodialysis can remove effectively as in hemodiafiltrations, the myoglobin and above. So, in better improvement of our understanding of adequacy, what's beyond the V? So we can rescale additional parameters for KT to normalize protein catabolic ratio, body surface area, energy expenditures, and total energy expenditures. The importance here is to compare patients' gender states and weight as well activity. So 3 factors here are important: the different in genders, the different in weight, and the different in activity of the patients. So in sedentary peoples may not require very intensive dialysis like an active one. And small males and females, it's better to divide KT over the body surface area, not on the V. With rescaling for women, they will have enough dialysis of KT over body surface area. You can calculate the body surface area or directly from the table, or you can calculate it online. Rescaling for small patients as well improve the adequacy of hemodialysis if you divide the KT over body surface area. And this table shows that the difference in every item, if you divide KT over V or KT alone over body surface area and total energy in expenditure or normalized protein catabolic ratio. So the delta changes here define how much you need for more adequate hemodialysis if you compare additional KT over additional factors rather than KT over V. So optimal dialysis prescription, we have to understand and know what we don't know up till now. Comfortable, better control of blood pressure, anemia, CKD, MPD, better control of uremic toxins and volume state, and our goal is better survival and health-related quality of life. You need high permeable membrane, high flux, more prolonged time, and more frequency, every other day dialysis at least. In conclusion, a well-defined difference between adequate versus optimal hemodialysis. New advances in hemodialysis is still running in the hemodialysis membranes, rather a well-fixed therapy of vascular access type, hemodialysis type, frequency, ultrafiltration rate, and other goals of therapy for mineral bone disease, blood pressure control, cardiovascular disease assessment, anemia control. Do we settle for adequate dialysis or push for optimal one? Thank you very much.